Going to try to make this really quick. I just want to explain the reasons why I think that the independent needs to be reported on Twitter, especially for targeted harassment. Whenever you see them repost their hit piece about the alt right being involved with the Alita Army, this is basically specifically the Alita Army. It's not, in my opinion, they do mention that some Alita fans are alt right, but for the most part, it seems like their whole the whole point of their hit piece was to label the Alita Army portion of the Alita fan base as alt right. So when you see them reposting their hit piece, which is what it is, you need to report that specifically as targeted harassment, not just being offensive or being rude or whatever else. It's targeted harassment. The reporter involved already, tried to get in contact with them and on Twitter and told them that they should have spoken to her first. Nobody from the Alita Army was contacted. They ran with half truths, um, and they are spreading lies and misinformation. And it's really is defamation what it is. And although they didn't mention anybody's name, which is one of the clues that they are trying to avoid being accused of defamation, because they don't name anybody. But how can you say something about somebody without naming them? That story shouldn't be taken seriously. But unfortunately, it is taken seriously. And looking at the yesterday when I was searching for Alita Battle Angel news, and it's probably the same today. The results on the first page turned up the article. I'm just going to refer to it as a hit piece. The hit piece from the Independent on the front page, and this is the day of Alita's digital release. So it's clear to me that it was that it was timed in order to not only hurt Alita's sales, but also and it happened right after the Alita Army was recognized by the official social media account of Alita Battle Angel movie. So that was really big for us. And then the digital release, and within a week, within just a few days, we had so much good happening for us, so much momentum building, and the independent decides to do this to to try to stop all of that by labeling us or associating the Alita Army with the alt right, with no real evidence to show. But they alluded to things that were done by myself. They said that well, they didn't mention me specifically, but I know what they were talking about. That there was an attack video made about a journalist, a female journalist, and it was described as a malicious attack. and um, and so that they did not mention that there was I didn't it was an attack video. It was not an attack video, and it shouldn't have been. Especially wasn't meant to be taken that way. But they keep pushing this out there, even though we've tried to reach them and contact them and debunk it and clear our name. So at this point, it's targeted harassment. They need to be reported as targeted harassment. And I'm going to see if I can actually get in contact with somebody at that paper or at that site, and maybe an editor or whatever, and straighten this out, because there has to be something that we can do to hold them responsible for repeating these lies. So what they also tried to do was use the female journalist, as a weapon, which is often the case when somebody really wants to defame you or to take you down. They'll find a woman who they consider marginalized. They really for all the talk they do about believing that women are strong and independent, they treat women like children and and tools. It's the same way they like to use minorities or racial minorities, like what you would consider African American. You would call them a racial minority, even though I don't really like that term. I'm not, I'm not, I'm not minor or inferior in any way. But um, so in America, there may be less of me, but that doesn't really make me, in my opinion, my you know what I'm saying. It feels a little bit less. I just want to be equal to everybody else. So, but they do use us as weapons, as swords and shields, as I have mentioned on this channel before. So right now, the journalist is being used as a sword against um, the Alita Army, and they don't mention that the video that was called the attack video was made by somebody who was not white. So that would destroy their narrative of it being an alt right attack. Um, so another thing that I need to say, I guess, is when I didn't expect to see that hit piece turn up in the top results. So because people were telling me that nobody in the UK listens to the Independent, nobody listens to them, and all of that, so disregard it. And I was okay. I was like, okay, whatever. And but looking at just searching for Alita Battle Angel news like I usually do. Not as much as I used to, but I still do it. And that showed up in the top results on the day of Alita's digital release day, and that really that really stung, right? So I might have been, I don't know if I was showing it or not, but I was really affected by this, and um, because it really, you know, I, I've stand by what I did. Really, I do. I feel like I did the right thing when I was unclear of this person's intention. I was unclear of the journalist's intention, and I just wanted to protect the Alita Army from being smeared. And so I encourage people after that. At first, I was open. I was like, I'm willing to talk, but I'm willing to talk in public. If you want to talk to me, just talk to me right now. I'm right here. Talk to me. And so when that didn't happen, and I just felt like, okay, well, let's just stay away from this because I don't want to get smeared. I don't want the Alita Army to get smeared. And um, and that's what I told people to do. I said, don't make any contact because I don't want to be accused of harassment either. So don't even contact the person. Just stay away from them. That was my whole thing. But the next day after making that video, the journalist did see it. She did come across it, and and it turns out she was hurt by that. And she said that she was crying, and at the time I still wasn't sure what was going on. I felt in a way like maybe this was some emotional manipulation, and I still just wasn't sure. I just didn't know this person. So I got called out though by other Alita Army members. I don't want to say members, just we're fans. We're just together, you know. But we people who identify as Alita Army. So I was called out that the next morning, and we had a long debate. And those tweets are still on Twitter. Anybody could search them and find them. And some people still, right now, insist 100% without a shadow of a doubt that I was in the wrong. And I respect their opinion. And in a way, I um, I don't feel I was wrong, but at the same time, I do have regrets, especially now that this hit piece has come out about the Leader Army. I couldn't have known that the journalist didn't really intend on smearing us. So all I know is that I didn't say anything against the person in the video to personally attack them or to intentionally hurt them. I didn't do any of that. But the person was hurt by it, and I did apologize when I when she sent her video. explaining herself and exactly who she was and what she wanted to do. And I was able to understand a little bit more about her from that point. And I decided, okay, I was taking the video down because I finally felt like I had some open communication with the person. And and then I apologized for the hurt that I caused. And when I did it again yesterday, not yesterday, the day before, after she came out and talked to the, well, she tweeted at the Independent. And so, but I never got on YouTube and made an apology about that. So I guess I'll do that right now. So to the journalists and to everybody else involved with Alita Army, I apologize for the damage that that video had caused. It wasn't intentional, and and I've been struggling with it because I feel like on one side of it, it was the right thing to do, but on the other side of it, I feel like I do feel like it did a lot of damage. So um, I'm not looking for anybody's pity or anything like that. I'm just saying that I I'm just you can say, oh, don't blame yourself and all of that kind of stuff, but the fact the fact is, if I hadn't made that video, then they wouldn't have had enough ammunition to smear the Alita Army, because that's what they needed. They needed to make a damsel in distress in this situation in order to have a weapon to use against the Alita Army. So even though, like I said, I still feel like it was the right thing to do. It did, in my attempt to protect Alita Army from getting smeared, I actually helped Alita Army get smeared. So it's kind of weird the way it worked out that way. Um, so yeah, that was like really heavy on me yesterday. So I was trying to do my best to fight it, to get some help. Um, I contacted Bounding into Comics and also Cosmic Book News because I don't trust any of these bigger news sources. So I know that Cosmic Book News and what is it, Bounding into Comics are not really. Now they're of course they're going to be labeled as alt right as well, but I know that they're one of these smaller independent media sites, and they're not going to be you know controlled by the same forces that these bigger companies are controlled by. And so they did come through for us, and they put out their article clearing our name. They showed our tweets and they showed everything, showing that we were not guilty of the things that we were accused of, and that independent hit piece. So I was glad for that. We really needed that help, and that ended up on the front page too. Unfortunately, when you look at the mobile site, you can't actually see the Bounded into Comics story, but if you search a little bit more, it'll turn up. So at least we have that to counter the independent hit piece. And the thing is, we still need to report the independent for targeted harassment because they are spreading lies and untruths and half truths and all of that. So anyway, this the final. I'm wrapping this up. Once again, I apologize for the damage that I caused. It wasn't intentional. I apologize to the journalist. I don't want to keep putting her name out there for the hurt that I caused her. And then now this situation is happening where she's mentioned in this, she's basically being used as a weapon now. And this is just so much more trouble, not only to us, but to her, who I really feel bad for, because this thing is just out there now. And it's like, she didn't really want any of this when she came to talk to us. So this is like something that I really wish would, I really wish it wouldn't have happened, but it happened. So there's nothing really I or anybody else can do about it. It's just something that, like, it wasn't meant to blow up the way it did, but it happened. So anyway, I hope the journalist can move, can get some kind of peace right now and not have this thing hanging over her for too long, and she can feel better. And that I hope that this doesn't actually end up hanging over the Alita Army's head in the future. So you know, that's all I can do. I hope it doesn't end up hanging over our heads, because if the Alita Army ends up not being recognized by the official Alita movie account, or this somehow negatively affects Tilly Lockley, or anybody else who has come out in support of the Alita Army, or who has decided to identify with the Alita Army, then that's just going to make it that much more regrettable what happened. So, anyway, thanks for listening. So, bye.